Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Female Footballers Podcast. My name is Cassie Gray. I'm joined by the birthday girl, Rachel Thomas.
Hello.
And today is a very special day because we have on a former Irish national team captain, a collegiate player, a former college coach, a former college athletic director, a former director of college programs at United Soccer Coaches, and the current commissioner of the Girls Academy. Please welcome Patricia Hughes, aka Trish the Commish. Welcome.
Hey everybody, thank you for having me. I'm very excited and congrats and happy birthday to you, Rachel.
Oh,
I'm very
thanks,
happy to
Trish.
join you on your special day.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. This is a long time coming. We've talked about doing this for a little while, and it's just trying to nail down. Scheduling is always tricky, right? You are a busy woman with a lot going on, and so we want to respect your time, but get to some exciting questions. And so, first of all, we don't know a ton about you as a youth development type of player from young to your time on the national team. I want to hear a little bit about that, and we'll move into kind of more of what's happening nowadays. But would love to jump right in and hear a little bit about Trish as a youth player in Ireland and when you came here and all of that. So go ahead and take us through your youth career.
I mean, this could take a long time because I am somewhat of a dinosaur. I came to the US back in 1989. I had been playing in Ireland at a time when certainly there was good opportunities on the ground, but in terms of the opportunities the players have now with professional pathways and all that good stuff, it didn't exist. And I was in the youth national team system. I was playing with the U18s, had been pulled up at quite a young age into the senior national team. I was probably like 17 years of age, and was doing well, having good opportunity. Probably my big claim to fame was getting to play in Wembley Stadium, in the old Wembley, with the Irish national team. We were the first women to have that opportunity to play. We played against the English FA. But then I got an opportunity to come to the US on a college scholarship. And at the time, again, options and opportunities were somewhat limited, and it just seemed like a great opportunity. There were other female players who had gone before me and seemed to have had great success. So I took a blind leap of faith at probably 19 years of age and attended Cook University in South Carolina, where I did my undergraduate and played there. Had a very fun time, both as a player, as a student, and lived my best life there for over 4 years. And then from there, I went on to be a graduate assistant at the University of Montevallo. Little known fact, I actually went on and got an undergraduate degree in exercise physiology. I went in to the medical field as a clinical fitness instructor in a hospital cardiac pulmonary rehabilitation center. And that was my path ultimately initially. And then after about a year and a half from that, having gone through the American College of Sports Medicine certification, I decided that I really wanted to stay in the soccer world because the opportunity with the national team was harder for me to keep going back and forth. They weren't really providing those opportunities that they do now. And then I did my graduate work at the University of Montevallo in Alabama, and then left there, went to Auburn University, where I was the first assistant for about 3.5 years. And then I left there and went back to the University of Montevallo. I went to Belmont University, I beg your pardon, in Nashville, where I was a head coach for a brief period of time. And then I went back to Birmingham to be the head coach at the University of Montevallo and stayed there for 17 years, if you can believe that. Um, During which time I stayed as the head coach and then got a real taste for athletic administration, where I was the assistant athletic director. I was an interim AD there for a year during that time. And then at that point, I had kind of a real crossroads where I had to decide if I wanted to continue coaching. I was probably a little bit burned out at that point, but I had a real taste for athletic administration. And I left there, went to the University of New Haven as an associate athletic director, and then came back south after we had our son in Connecticut and became the director of athletics at Salem College, which was a single gender, the coolest little quirkiest place in North Carolina. And then from there, got an opportunity to interview for the college program director position with United Soccer Coaches, where I did a ton of legislative work with the NCAA and liaisoning between United Soccer Coaches representing college coaches in all three divisions. And then from there, got an opportunity to interview for the commissioner role. And I've been with the GA now for about 20 months, I'd say. It's going on 2 years in September. So it's been it's been quite the journey. Soccer has just continued to provide me so many great opportunities. And now I feel like my lens has come full circle, having been, an athlete, a college athlete, college coach, college administrator, to leaning in administratively, doing legislative work on behalf of coaches. And now the one missing piece is really the youth advocacy and pulling in all my respective lenses and shared experiences to guide me in my work as the commissioner of the Girls Academy. So
So cool. Wow, what a trajectory. I don't think I knew you were a college coach for that long either. And so curious because we have several friends who are female college coaches. Is that I can imagine just a very hard job, but also very rewarding at the same time. Do you have any thoughts on your experience as a collegiate coach? I mean having done it for a long time?
yeah, I mean, listen, it was exceptionally rewarding. I think the big thing for me back then was balancing personal life and this notion that you can't have it all and that you couldn't have a child. And I waited till very later in life to become a mother. And my partner and I was probably in my 40s, and I think at the time when I was coaching in Alabama, if I'm being really honest, I think I was nervous at the notion that I was going to have a child, and then what would that do with balancing being a head coach. I regret that decision because I think we can and we should be advocating for equal opportunity in terms of being able to have a child, being able to balance the workload, and finding an environment with which you can be supported, both in terms of if you have a female partner or if you are just a mom trying to manage the balance of being a mom, a full time coach, and all that travel. I had a tremendous career and time when I was at the University of Montevallo. I loved my time there. It really put me on a path administratively. But I think the challenges are somewhat the same, but it's gotten trickier, right? I think if you look at the work of the Transformation Committee and the evolution of the NCAA, NIL, transfer portal, the demands of being a female athlete and the demands of a modern athlete, and then when you flip that from the coaching side of the house, I think the vulnerabilities, one of the things my work at United Soccer Coaches really put a shared a lens on for me, and really the focus of my work is female. If you look at the data in the NCAA Wellbeing Survey, both for student athletes and then the NCAA Wellbeing Survey for female coaches, if you're ever bored, just Google both. There's a real bleed in the female coach representation. The female coaches are probably more vulnerable and under attack than any population within the coaching population. And I think now we understand really what the needs are of the modern athlete, particularly female athletes. We know post COVID that these stresses and the emotional toil of being an athlete is harder now than it's ever been. So how do we begin to educate coaches, particularly female coaches or male coaches of female athletes, in meeting the needs of the modern athlete? And I think it's a real evolution and transformation that we're in right now, where I think we have more data and we're more aware of the challenges that both groups are dealing with. So how do we, the big thing for me is how do we enhance and grow the emotional and communication strategies with which coaches can meet in the middle to be able to meet the needs of the modern athlete and support our female coaches and coaches in general, so that we're not so that the gap and the disconnect doesn't widen, if that makes sense. This is something that we're very acutely focused on with the Girls Academy. It's a program that we started, which is the Credential Coaching Excellence. In fact, a little plug, we just got a grant from US Soccer to launch this new program. And this June, we'll be bringing in a cohort of 60 female coaches within the Girls Academy. And the premise of this is around leadership and empowerment of female coaches and helping to educate them on communication strategies, leadership strategies. How do we grow and empower this next generation of female athletes, but do it in a manner that ensures we have female representation in leadership roles? So we're trying to connect the dots and work closely with the Federation so that we can build out a new cohort of coaches that can become She Champion candidates and it become part of our work within the ecosystem. So a lot of good
That's
things happening.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is huge. That's so awesome. I had a call with Eloisa Bergero about some of this the other day, and
Amazing.
I was so excited to hear the type of money that U.S. Soccer is getting from Michelle Kang, and that's going to a large side of the female side with a whole education unit
Yeah.
kind of that they're thinking of creating. And so it sounds like you guys are on just ahead of the game compared to a lot that are doing something like this. I know when I was on the development council for US Soccer, we had, in my area, the Bay Area Development Council, we had raised all this money to kind of do what you're talking about. And then this was in COVID, right before COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, all that funding had to go to kind of save the Federation at that time with everything that was going on. And so I think what you're doing and what the GA is doing with that is phenomenal. Rach, feel free to jump in. I don't want to talk over you. Go ahead.
No, totally. So Trish, you talk about the need for this representation of female coaches and stuff. I want to go back a little bit in your playing career. One, did you ever have a female coach? And two, how did you get into soccer? Like, was it, I mean, I know it's part of the culture in Ireland and things like that, but when did you feel that, like, I just love football?
Yeah, from the time at a young age, I was always kind of had a ball at my foot. I mean, I had dolls and all that stuff, but again, I was growing up playing in street leagues because at the time, and this really is going to age myself, organized soccer for girls was still kind of evolving when I was very young. So I grew up playing on the streets of Dublin with a group of boys, to be very candid with you, and just obviously it became clear that I had some obscure level of talent that didn't seem to resonate very often in girls soccer at the time. And that's really where I was playing with boys on street leagues. And then I got noticed by a gentleman that was involved in women's soccer in Ireland and asked to join a girls' club. I didn't even know clubs because this is, to be very candid with you. So when I was probably like 13 or 14 was when I started to really get into organized girls soccer. And then very quickly, as I transitioned up from a playing perspective, had been, gotten some time and attention with what would have been the youth national team staff, and was able to just kind of find my path in. It's, again, just a different time, to be very honest with you. I've always said that I wish I'd have been born a little bit later so that I could, because I see the benefits and the opportunity for women now, which is amazing to see how far we've come. So
cool. That's awesome. I love that it's like soccer too, that it was, like unstructured play, which we feel like is so important when you talk about coaching that modern athlete. I think like a big piece of that is letting players learn how to, fail and navigate failure. And that's part of that, like just being able to pick it up on your own and be able to just play sometimes unstructured. So that's so cool. So, you talk about going from United Soccer Coaches and all this stuff you're doing with the NCAA, which we had Leslie Gallimore on, the former commissioner of the GA, and she kind of talked about that she was kind of happy to get out of the college game because of all those different changes. And then you jump right into this programming at United Soccer Coaches, probably doing a lot of the work around that, and learning a lot about it. And then you just took that with you into the GA, which is so awesome. I feel like that's such an advantage to the players in the GA that they have somebody with the type of knowledge and research and development that you've done at that level and then bringing it into the GA. So you talked a little bit about, being ready for that position, but what kind of ultimately made you want to go on that trajectory? I know I'm having some video issues, but I'm still here. Yeah. There we go. The trajectory.
Into the Girls Academy.
Yeah.
Look, to be very honest with you, I was plugging away with United Soccer Coaches, really heavily focused on our commitment to transforming the Division One men's and women's soccer platform, which we all know has been a bit archaic, right? We've got these international academies that are playing year round, and here we have one of the most successful platforms of producing talent, particularly on the women's side, was the collegiate game. But it's a four-month calendar in which we cram all this work in, even though we know the sports science says periodization and overload and all that good stuff. So a lot of my work was really working on behalf of coaches, trying to, one, impact NCAA legislation. And then when I was knee deep in the coaching work in advocacy and support for coaches, and particularly when we look at the surveys and the data, if I'm being really honest, I mean, that was my path. But I was approached by Bloom Sports, who was overseeing the search for the role of the commissioner. And the deeper I got into understanding the role, it really was a perfect conduit for me because I had served in various roles. And to be clear, I had coached with the youth clubs throughout my career. Just one as a graduate assistant became an opportunity for me to have additional revenue because I was on a very skinny budget, if you can imagine. And then obviously I loved working with young players. I mean, it's always been something that I've been quite passionate about. So the more I got into the understanding the role of the commissioner and seeing, again, for me, it's all about impact, right? When I stepped away from collegiate coaching, I knew going into United Soccer Coaches, even as a director of athletics administratively or beyond, my reach and the ability to impact more players and student athletes was something that was very important to me. When I went into United Soccer Coaches, it was a broad swath of coaches that I was able to impact in the industry. But so then going into the commissioner role, I mean, think about this. We're currently at about 16,000 players. With the addition of the Aspire division, we're going to explode to about 40,000 players. So for me, it's understanding my role and responsibility as commissioner, and then thinking about the impact not only on the GA but ultimately in the ecosystem. And then how do we come full circle in helping educate coaches, not just female coaches, but male coaches who we want to grow the next cohort of female coaches. And then obviously on the player side, and then finding ways to connect the dots. So for me, it's about reach, and then really having the ability to think about my time as a player, which again, it's completely different times now, right? But ultimately, as we learn and grow from our mistakes in the past, just in terms of the ecosystem and where we're headed, I think that's now when I think about my role, it is a big responsibility, and it's something that I take quite personally based on my own experience and my commitment to coaches, right? And ensuring that we find ways to create a healthy environment. I mean, I'm all about, we think about the insanity of the youth landscape right now, and kind of the craziness and the pay to play model. It's something that I genuinely struggle with. But how can we inject some level of sanity into this ecosystem and do it in the right way that meets the need of the modern athlete, and really take our responsibility and use it wisely, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. That kind of leads to my question of just, you know, how does the GA, I feel like I know this, but I want to hear it from you. We personally, Rachel and I have loved getting to work with you guys and come down and do a couple different sessions for the GA. And my own daughter is pre-GA right now at Almaden and excited to join the GA this next fall. And I think when you look at the GA, like there's a lot of wonderful things, but for my question, I guess, is, how does the GA differ from other clubs or leagues, I should say, in the United States? What does that look like? What does success sort of define? Like, how do you define success for a player in the GA? Like, what does that look like, or for your organization?
Yeah, so great question. I mean, success for us is we try to redefine success, so it's not just singularly focused on competition. I mean, our superpower, I say this all the time, and when I think about the foundation that Leslie built out, is we're a single gender organization, right? So we are somewhat of an anomaly that we're solely focused on female soccer players. So what we don't want to do is become so focused on just winning and losing, because we know and we've seen where if we just focus on winning, the player experience and the player well-being can really become a byproduct of that, right? They become the pawn in the middle of that. So we are so wholly committed, very intentionally focused on our purpose, which is, one, we want to provide an elite competitive soccer platform. Two, we want to grow female representation and ensure that we're developing a brand of coaches that meet the profile of coaches that are committed to the modern athlete, emotional intelligence, safeguarding, player well-being, and all the things that we know contributed to the advancement of female athletes and soccer players, but ultimately protects and insulates them as little human beings and their mental health, right? That's something that we're hugely committed to. We want to grow community. We want every GA club to be committed to being a good ambassador and role model within their respective communities, where they provide opportunities for these young women to grow as leaders and empower them to put them in positions of growth and discomfort, where they can be leaders within their respective community. We focus very much on She Scores health and wellness. That's really focusing on female health and wellness and key areas that we know permeate within the women's game, menstrual cycle and the occurrence of ACL injuries. And we want to get really into the science-backed data that says this is what we know, and then work with an advisory group that is then taking that information back to our respective clubs to help them educate and grow these young women in the right way. And then our advisory panel, we believe our advisory panel is really our differentiator in the market. I think you guys have had an opportunity to spend time with the advisory panel on the ground. And for those that don't know, currently our advisory panel is about 1,200 members strong, and it is comprised of 13 to 19-year-old young women, and it pyramids all the way up. We have 3 national leaders that report into our board. And we use this advisory panel. Every team is represented in the Girls Academy. And right now, we've close to 700 teams, which will grow to 1,400 plus teams by next fall with the Aspire League. And every team has a advisory panel representative, which then reports into their club cohort, which then reports into the conference cohort, and then all the way up to the national ambassadors who lead and direct us. And we use the voices of the players to really understand what's key in the mind of a 13 to 19-year-old. Where are the issues? Where can we facilitate change? For example, we received a letter from a young girl who is part of one of our member clubs who's advocating to get rid of white shorts. In the Girls Academy right now, they can choose to have a uniform that's color based or not. But this young lady she wrote an op-ed for the New York Times and is pushing for the Girls Academy to push for us to eliminate white shorts completely. So what we have said is we want that to go through the advisory committee, and we're working on a proposal that will permeate through the 1,200 strong membership so that we can get to a place of making a formal recommendation to the board. So these young women they're amazing, they're smart, they're really articulate, they know where the boundaries are for them, they know what they want this league to represent, and they guide us in decision making. We have an adult facilitators group, and we did a complete revamp of the advisory panel this year so that we can stay focused on being purposeful and intentional on the work that we're doing. So listen, if you go to a Girls Academy event, I would say, while focusing solely on us, you will notice a sense of community. You will notice that our events are not transactional where you show up and you play. We really want to create an empowering environment for these young women. It's all about building out a sisterhood, and that we align ourselves with colleagues and allies in the industry who could come in and help us elevate and scream that mission from the rafters, which is why our relationship with female footballers is so important to us. So.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. I think Rachel and I definitely, every time we visit you guys, we have that sense of community.
Yeah, I was going to say going to the events, you could really see and feel, more importantly, because we can all put up a facade, but you could feel that sense of community. And it was really amazing to talk with the advisory panel members who, for those of you who haven't been to a GA event, they had their tent and they would rotate in those advisory panels depending on when their game was, and players could come and speak with them. So that was really neat to meet them. So cool that they're from all over the country and have the same focus of what they're trying to provide in this situation. And then the thing that hands down, every time we've been in an event, every player, not just the advisory panel players, are so engaged and thoughtful in there. We always put like a question up, and have them write on Post-its, and they are loving doing that. And then at the most recent event that we went to in Oceanside, the clipping was happening. The clothespin. Is that what it's called? Clipping?
Yes, I got pegged. Well, yeah, clipped.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clip. And that is just like, what a cool thing. And it was neat. Like, I heard about it and I saw some girls, but while we were doing a session, I watched some girls walk behind a player who they didn't know. Like, most of the times they don't know these players, and they clipped her. Like, 3 of them clipped her. And it's almost like it's like a sneaky, you don't want to get caught clipping. But what a cool way to like build that sense of community, and like that we're here for the shared experience of, high level soccer, but also like, this is what it's about right here, right now, us enjoying and growing our game. And look, you guys taking the advisory panels input, the surveys you do, the things that you are valuing the players' voice, not just saying it, but you're actually implementing that stuff. And it's so, for anyone who hasn't been to an event, it is so obvious when you were there. And I think that's just hats off to like, these are very intentional decisions you guys are making, because it is a freaking chaotic youth sports world, and you can do whatever you want because there isn't a lot of regulation, and you guys are doing it right by the players, and by the coaches, it seems, of course. But anyway, what a cool thing for Cassie and I to step into and see. When we got down to that first tournament in Norco in December, we were like, wow, this is so cool. And then the other thing I love was, I think it was in Norco, there was the DJ got on, and they were doing like a some sort of or a raffle kind of thing, and they had to go find you. And Trish, for you guys who don't know, Trish is a celebrity because she's Trish the Commish. I mean, you couldn't have picked a better moniker for your title, but so they had to go find Trish on her golf cart and take a selfie with her and run back, and then they got some swag or got soccer stuff. But just really neat. Again, like putting the player experience at a high level of priority within your organization is very evident, and I just am so glad to see that in the youth sports world.
Yeah, if I can very quickly, the Trish the Commish kind of started out as a our marketing agency said, this should really resonate. And I'm not a very big social media person, to be very candid with you. But this thing has kind of gained an energy and a mind all of its own. And and to be honest with you, it's really the authenticity. Like for me, that we want the players to know who our senior staff is. We want to be engaging. This is about the players. It's not about Trish the Commish. It's about ensuring that they know who we are and that we care and that we're present and that at any given time, at any event, we are there to support them. And it's about building relationships, right? If they truly believe that we care about them and that we're in it for the right reasons for them, that community has just strengthened. And the Trish the Commish has really, it's taken on a life of its own. And me as a dinosaur, I get plenty of good help from my friends with marketing to make sure that I stay relevant and
I
don't
love
embarrass
it.
myself.
I love it. Are you a coach or parent struggling to help your player find confidence or move past mistakes? If so, check out our mental performance opportunities at Female Footballers. We offer team and club sessions for athletes ages 10 and up, and we have an individual virtual mentorship program where players can chat weekly with a pro or college player alongside our research based mental skills curriculum. For more information, please go to www.femalefootballers.org. And I think I think Rachel and I both come with a hat of being a parent, former educators, coaches, and I just think players as well. And I just think when I look at this, it just feels very community based. And I think that the more the community feels that there's intention and purpose behind it, the more it feels less about the pay to play model and the ickiness that sometimes the competitive soccer can feel in today's world. And so I personally love it. I love getting to be a part of these events as well. But I think it's just really refreshing to see a league that has so much, they've done the work to really listen to the players. There really isn't a lot of that. And we see that at the national team level that, with their CBA and even the NWSL, they're listening to the professional players. And it's really unique to get an opportunity to listen to youth players. And not a lot of people value that. And I think that's something that's just really special about the GA. And so I'm curious going forward with the next year or two. You have Aspire coming. For those of you who don't know, the Aspire is like the second tier level of the GA where they're going to grow. And feel free to talk more on that. But I really want to know, where does your passion lie? Is it more amongst growing? Obviously, I'm sure it's all three when you look at parents, players, and coaches. But is there an area of focus in the next couple of years where you're really jazzed about and that you are excited to kind of grow or put focus on out of those three?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, look, I think they work in tandem. I think you can't, and I truly believe this when I was working even at United Soccer Coaches, if we truly want to change how young women are being treated as human beings and as athletes, we can't fix that without fixing the people they're surrounded with. So I think there's we have to kind of cross pollinate our work to make sure that we lift all three at the same time. We're very committed to educating parents and ensuring and guardians to make sure they understand how best to support their young daughters. And I'm a mom. My son is 10, and I see this every week play out on the sidelines of his games, where there are people that just need to take a breath and, dear God, help us. Can we please just calm down for a minute? And I'm quite surprised that I'm quite energetic as a personality, but I do. I've learned to kind of just sit quietly and try to let him have fun as best I can. Let me be clear on that. But I think for us, it's we've got to just drink from the same Kool-Aid as it pertains to our community, right? I think the modern athlete, regardless of the level of this athlete, these are human beings that deserve all the rights and privileges to be successful and to find what success is for them We put so much pressure on that it has to be Division One soccer. Well, it doesn't have to be Division One soccer. And we know with the transfer portal, and we know with roster caps, the Division One rosters are going to drop by almost 7 positions per roster going forward. So now we're setting this population of young women up that the only path forward is Division One soccer or in the pros. Well, let's be real. There's not enough spots for all of these young women, and let's set realistic expectations without killing their dream of success, and help educate the parents and the young women on what success is. But I think within that, I mean, for me, it's all about continuing to focus on the players, continuing to focus on creating. We say in our mission statement, holistic player development. We can't just say it; we have to act on it. So for me, it's always about safeguarding and the player well-being. We have, I'm gonna give us a little plug here. We have been beta testing the new safe soccer program for US soccer. We're the only league in the country that's fully testing that program for them. And what that does is it's helped us with the refinement of that new program that they're going to lift. It's everything to do with background checking and safeguarding and guardrails in and around players, with anybody that metaphorically has an impact or directly involved with the player, whether it's a manager, an athletic trainer, or coaches. So for me, my priority, my non-negotiables are always player safety, player well-being. And then by degrees of that, then as we think about the outer bands of contact, it would be ensuring that we educate the families and then ultimately coaches, right? I think right now, when we go into a room, our AGM last year, it's 75% white men. And while we appreciate, I say this all the time, we have great love and respect and admiration for our male counterparts. But where can we grow the next generation of young female coaches and leaders, not just coaches, but backroom staff, executives, leaders? And we have to make sure that we are educating our male counterparts on their role in recruiting and retaining the next generation of female coaches. So that we can't just say we're going to work on female coaches. I think the greater need within the coaching ranks, and when we look at our executive directors, is how can we add more female and minority voices in the coaching and leadership ranks, and educating our male counterparts that they have a big responsibility in this growth and retention too. So I think it's multifaceted. I mean, for us, I'm super proud of the fact that we're launching the Aspire League, and when we were looking at that league based on the market industry research that we did, it can't be that it's just about, again, wins and losses. And I've watched people on social media talk about that this is a money grab. And to be very candid with you, it's anything but. Our goal out of the gate was to break even financially, to make sure that we could lift it and execute it in a manner that ensures every player that plays in Aspire gets a great experience. And we're committed to, at our events, that all the rights and privileges of a full GA player, whether it's advisory panel, 4 officials at every game, a same sense of community and holistic player development, that is the experience they will have, regardless if they are in the top 20% of the elite ecosystem or not. We want to make sure that we're driving the soccer experience forward in a manner that keeps these kids playing the game. And we're very excited about that and proud of the work we've done to kind of get to where we are to launch July 1.
That is fantastic. And I think about, we get called in all the time to different clubs, and we're often working with the top tier players. And so to hear you say that you value not just the top 20%, but everybody, and that they are, that there's value in providing holistic player development for everyone is huge. And I don't feel like I hear a lot of leagues saying that, or even talking about holistic player development, even discussing coaching the modern athlete. So some of the things that you've said are just so in line with our mission, and this is why we love working with you so much. But Rach, did you have any other questions before we start to wrap up?
I don't think so. I guess Trish, if you could, if I, the fun question of like, tell your 12-year-old self this, like, what would you say to your 12-year-old self with everything you've done and accomplished, and the struggles and all the things, like, what would your message be?
Oh God, my 12-year-old self. I mean, I'm one of 5 girls, so I was always trying to fight for
Okay.
it. I'm one of 7 children, so my 12-year-old self would be, listen, I was tough as a kid. Because I was playing with boys, right? So I think now it's seeing that there is opportunity for young females. I mean, I grew up in a very, very Irish family. My God, my 12-year-old self. I mean, just keep fighting for what I wanted, and I think I've been so blessed with the path and the journey I've had, and it hasn't always been easy. Even as a female. Look, I had a wife, and I hid that for many, many years, if I'm being really candid with you, when I lived in Alabama, not because of Alabama, just because I didn't want to be judged, or I didn't want anybody to take away any value from who I was as a leader. So I might move that message forward to my 30s-year-old self, is that just to be as authentic and true to who you are. And I think we as women in this era now, we have a responsibility to continue to fight and advocate for young women, and also to make sure that we're protecting these young women and creating playing environments and work environments where they can be successful. I've had some really strong mentors around me, men and women. Um, and I'm just so fortunate because soccer has given me so much over the years. And I don't take any of that lightly. I've certainly made my mistakes, I'd say, in terms of how we think we need to coach or how we need to lead, and just committed to showing up every day and being the best version I can for these young women based on my own shared experiences over the years. I mean, listen, to do what we do every single day, it's kind of a pinch me moment. I've kind of joked with you all about the fact that I get to be on this podcast. I feel like the Girls Academy has finally arrived, and we take our responsibility seriously. We're so proud of the work we're doing, and just want to continue to grow our allies and our friends and supporters. And really, at the end of the day, it's about the kids and the players. So that's ultimately what we're focused on.
So awesome. Yeah. No, we're very proud of what you guys are doing too, and in awe of like such a well-oiled machine in those events. They just go so smoothly, and they're just so fun to be at. And so if you're a player listening and you're considering looking at a league, we highly recommend GA, just because I think it's really about more so than what many other club or leagues offer, which is more of the winning at all costs model. It's definitely not that. It's holistic player development with very high level players within it, and and multiple pathway opportunities, which is what I loved your comment about expectations kind of versus the expectation can't be that everyone's going to play at the highest level. That can be the goal, absolutely, and it should be. But there's so many different pathways out there for girls, and I think that that's important to also just foster in these players. And the goal to be a female coach hopefully is something that many aspire to be as well, because like you said, we need so many more. So this has been so fun getting to talk to you. Normally when we chat, we're more in a meeting sense. This is kind of more fun to get to talk and actually hear about your journey. It's been really fun.
I appreciate you guys having me on. I love to kind of keep up with your podcast and all the great work you're doing. And we certainly are excited about the relationship, and just keep going forward. Rachel, I hope you get to have a fun day. I'm glad I got to be a tiny part of it. So
Yes, thank you.
Happy birthday, Rach.
Yeah.
All right, we'll definitely check this out. If you're listening, please share, like, comment, and we really appreciate your time today, Trish. And listeners, we'll see you next week. Thanks so much.
thanks, everybody. Good to see you guys.